Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Today, of course, though, we are absolutely delighted to welcome back local author Andrea Portes. Henry and Eva and the Castle on the Cliff is Andrea Portes' sixth book. I hear there's a seventh already in the works, Henry and Eva and the Famous People's Ghost. Apparently it's an entire series, so once you fall madly in love with these characters, there is yet more to come. Of course, Andrea Portes is a best-selling American novelist who has also writes literary fiction for adults. Her first adult novel was made into a feature film, and she's working on a new one now whose title caught my attention. They Were Like Wolves. I can't wait for that one to come out. This book today, though, Henry and Eva and the Castle on the Cliff, has been very warmly reviewed. It has been called delightful, timeless, fresh, spooky, arch, entertaining, challenging, smart, spunky, a traditional mystery, fully realized, tinged with heartbreak, rich, beautiful, and worthy. Let's please give her a warm round of applause.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out in this apocalyptic landscape to see this. How's everybody doing? Yeah? Good? Enjoying the apocalypse, everyone? Okay, so as you know, I write usually adult books, but because I noticed what Wyatt really liked seemed to be spooky things, so that's what I thought I'd try to go for this. So this is the first book in a series for HarperCollins, and as she said, the second one is Henry and Eva and the Famous People Ghosts, and that takes place in Hearst Castle, so that's pretty fun too, because there's, famous ghosts like Winston Churchill and Humphrey Bogart and Groucho Marx and stuff like that. Marlene Dietrich. Okay, but that's enough of that. So I'm just going to read just a little bit, and then I'm going to open it up to questions, which I think is more exciting because then I get to interact a little bit. Plus, I just had eye surgery, so I can't really see anything. Okay. All right, is everybody ready for this party? Okay. All right, so sometimes things can be perfect. Sometimes everything and everyone you know can just float around in a kind of eternal, blissful loop, like nothing can ever change and the world will just keep spinning perfectly on its axis, giggling, delirious with each turn. And sometimes it can all fall apart, just like that. Smash. Shards everywhere, sharp like a room full of razors. Faster than you can say, wait, but I didn't know it would go. Hold on, I didn't know it could ever change. It does change, and by then it's too late. Here, I'll show you. Look over there. See that gray stone fence that looks like it's been here since before Columbus discovered America? The one covered with vines? Under the vines, the gray stones peeking out, playing hide and seek. Okay, now, through the gate. The black wrought iron one. There. See the big thicket full of trees? Eucalyptus, Torrey pine, cypresses, and even some redwoods? Okay, now, down that dirt road, through the clover, and watch out for the poison oak. There's the clearing, the light coming through the edge of the trees. This is the part where I always have to stop, to catch my breath, to take it in, to feel it again for the 1000th time, just like the first time. Look, the grass meadow swooping down, down, down into the cliffs, and there, beyond the cliffs, the crashing deep blue Pacific Ocean. Westward, young one. That's the direction you face. If you were magic, you could see all the way to Tokyo. And there, just where the meadow starts to swoop around, perched just before the cliffs, the old Victorian house that looks a lot like it's haunted. Yes, people think it's a haunted house, but I know it's not because it's my house. I think it's the spires that make it look like a natural ghost habitat, and the wraparound porch, and the turrets, and the tiny graveyard in the corner of the property. That usually clinches it for people. But it's been there forever. I mean, what are we going to do? Move it? See that little boy there on the steps of the porch looking out at the ocean? Well, that little boy there with the dark hair and giant eyes, that's Henry. my kid brother. And if it were 2 months ago, my kid brother Henry would come running up to me and we'd go play hide and seek or leapfrog, or we'd build an ant farm or fashion a kite out of sticks and leaves, or we'd race all the way down the craggy path to the tiny beach below and throw ourselves onto the sand, panting, trying to catch our breath. But it's not 2 months ago. It's now, 2 months after our parents died. Dun, dun, dun. Don't worry, it's not all depressing. Okay, so now we're going to go to, we're going to jump forward a little bit to, there's been some spooky things happening in the house. Eva was brushing her teeth and she saw in the mirror behind her an old man, like it was a ghost. What was it? Then she turns, it's gone. In the kitchen, the door slams shut when there's no one there. So now they're sort of trying to figure out what's going on. It's already dark by the time we make it up the hill, neither of us wanting to go back to the realm of Terri the Terrible until the last second. The trees reach up to the sky, black silhouette arms spindling up to the stars, each turning on one by one. If we wanted to, we could have been full of fear. If we wouldn't have decided everything was normal, which we definitely have. We decided totally normal. So normal, in fact, that I believe the song is in order. Something chipper. Everything is well, everything is fine. No need to feel it's out of line. It's all just perfect. It's all just well. Don't you worry now, all will be well. Eva. No, don't stop me. I'm figuring out the chorus. Eva. I'm thinking maybe a key change here, or Eva. Geez, what the heck? I pause, my magnum opus facing Henry. He does look a little pale. What? Turn around. What? Just turn around. Something in Henry's voice tells me I most definitely should not turn around, because there is obviously something hideous, something terrifying, something too ghastly to be seen behind me. Maybe I won't? I stutter. I think you should. I squint at him, avec purpose, sizing him up. Maybe he's just playing a trick on me. Maybe this is just some bit of psychology, like trying to scare someone when they have the hiccups. Okay, I'm not falling for it. Fine. Don't turn around. It's getting closer anyway. It is getting closer? It is at this terrifying moment that I turn around. I can honestly tell you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if there were any sight that I could randomly bestow on another human being, it would not be this one. I never, neither in a million years nor for $1 million, would randomly bestow this sight on even my very worst enemy, because what I'm facing is an army of incorporeal souls, las fantasmas, ghosts, and they are shambling towards me. Should I keep going, or should we just, yeah? Okay. All right, we'll see what happens with these ghosts. There was once a time when we were little, a festive time, when we went over to my dad's work colleague's house for a holiday party. It was a random one-off thing, and we never went back, partly because my mom was extremely annoyed at the extent to which the parents let their children play Minecraft. Not only was there screen time, but there was no limit on screen time. So basically all the kids at the party were just shuffled aside into the basement dungeon and put in front of a bunch of tiny screens to drool all over themselves the whole night and probably damage their eyes permanently. But the thing I remember the most from this party is the moment one of the big kids decided to play an R-rated movie on his iPad. All of us kids, there were about 20 of us, circled around to watch the inappropriate, not-for-our-consumption movie. Henry was the only kid who wasn't watching, and that's because he was conducting an experiment with cleaning supplies. I remember wanting to be brave, wanting to be a big kid, wanting to show I could watch the super scary movie too. It was only the part when the zombies came out of the ground and started coming towards us in droves, trying to eat brains, that any bravery I might have mustered up decided to hightail it out of my body. The good news is, Henry mixed ammonia with baking soda and accidentally exploded an entire Costco bulk of paper towels. The bad news is, that kind of ended the party. Now that I think of it, I'm sure for all the lamenting my mom did on the drive home, the hosts of that party were probably dragging our parents' names through the mud for letting their kid conduct dangerous science experiments in the basement unsupervised. So, you see, it all comes out in the wash. You're probably wondering why I'm telling you this. Well, that would be because, those zombies coming out of the ground in the R-rated movie and scaring the tuna salad out of me all these years ago at the Christmas party? Yes, those self-same zombies were across the lawn, coming toward us from the hill sloping down to the east, which also happens to be the location of the family cemetery. Gulp. Should we try one more? Little one before Q&A? All right. Don't move. I am currently frozen in fear, so Henry telling me not to move is a bit redundant. Allow me to describe the macabre vista before me. The lawn, usually green but now purple underneath the starlight, spreads down from where we are, the paths from the cliffs, all the way to the other side where the centuries-old ancestral cemetery is tucked away behind a giant magnolia tree. In front of us, too far away, is the house. Behind us is the cliff, which is about 50 to 60-foot drop to the water below. So you see, unless we want to become zombies and eat brains for the rest of our undead lives, we better think fast. Are those zombies? I managed to utter in despair. They can't be zombies. There's no such thing as zombies. They sure look like zombies. That's not logical. There's no such thing, Henry tells himself. The good news is, whatever they are, they're moving slowly. I'd say about the pace of an octogenarian carrying a giant bag of groceries in front of you at the grocery store. So slow, it's almost unfathomable. As they inch their way closer, I begin to make out their clothing, as does Henry. Interesting. Their clothes appear to be early 19th, maybe 18th century, definitely Victorian era, and they don't seem decomposed in the way of traditional zombies. He thinks for a moment, then snaps his finger. Aha! I've got it. They're not zombies. Okay. Perhaps the electromagnetic field has allowed for some kind of paranormal transmittance, Henry postulates. In English, those are definitely ghosts. Right. The ghoulish figures are about 50 feet away from us now, which is 50 feet too close, wobbling toward us like molasses. I count 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you see any others, Eva? I can't help it. I shriek, is this actually happening right now? As they approach, their skin begins to reveal itself. Cloudy, translucent skin, seemingly wavering in and out of this plane of existence. In 1 second they are there, you could swear it. The next, they seem like nothing more than a wave, or even the thought of a wave. But why aren't they speaking? Henry whispers, more to himself. Maybe they don't talk, I shrug. So they are silent ghosts? Maybe they don't want to be rude, like they don't want to yell or cause a disturbance. I'm just making up stuff now. Do you think they're here to harm us? I don't know. Why don't we stand here frozen and ask that while they devour our souls and usher us down to the netherworld? I suggest. According to my calculations, we could stand here another 5 minutes and easily make it to the house with time to spare. And this is true. During that entire exchange, they have only advanced about 5 feet. Henry nods. I'm going to go see what they want. I grab his arm. Wait, what? What are you talking about? It falls to reason that if they want to hurt us, we'd be dead already. Quite frankly, they are supernatural beings, with powers of which we can't possibly conceive. I have an idea. Why don't we just shoot video of them? We can post it on YouTube. Then all the ghost scientists, parapsychologists, then all the para-whateverists will see it and figure it out, and we can just stay in our beds. I understand your theory, Eva, and your trepidation. However, they might not be visible to other carbon-based life forms. Excuse me? It's possible only we can see them. Henry dumbs it down. Why would you think that? The ghost menagerie is now 40 feet away from us. Listen, Eva, has anyone else mentioned any other paranormal activity in the house? Marisol, Claude, Terri? No, no one has. Well, maybe the bathroom ghost of dental hygiene just wasn't interested in them, I contend. Maybe the ghost is just concentrating on our dental habits because we're younger and therefore more impressionable, and they just want to make sure we have a positive relationship with flossing and our teeth in general, including gum health, which is very important. But Henry is still analyzing the battalion of ghosts before us, indifferent to my supernatural dental health hypothesis. What could they possibly want from us? They're clearly disinterested in the house. Their focus seems to be on you and me. Right, which makes me think our focus should be on getting the heck out of here, I offer. Aren't you curious? Henry asks. I'm curious in the way someone would be curious if a knife-wielding bandit approached them and asked for their lunch money. Like, there would be questions about who that person was, why they were wielding a knife, and why such overkill just for lunch money, but I wouldn't want to stick around to find out the answers. Your feelings are registered. He nods. Great, so let's go. Kids! The yell comes from the other direction. Kids, what in the heck are you doing out here? It's freezing. Your uncle has been worried sick. Henry and I both turned to see Terri the Terrible running out in slipper heels and an overcoat. Even though she didn't have time to put on actual shoes, she didn't forget to bring her cocktail. Wait, Henry stops. Look, Terri doesn't seem to see them. And indeed, Terri the Terrible seems to be running towards us with abandon, not a care in the world other than the wind batting her sideways and the liquid even in her drink. Her trajectory will directly bisect the ghost if she keeps on her current vector. Oh my. Henry stops his science class short. What? They're gone. I turn to the coterie of ghosts, and yes, indeedy do. They are completely vanished, disappeared, fiend. What the? Don't say anything, he mutters. You mean like, hey, did you just see that armada of zombies on the lawn? Exactly. Kids, dinner's ready. If you don't come in right now, we're coming, we shout back. Henry and I share a look. Well, this is awkward. No, there's nothing strange about rejoining our family inside after sharing a supernatural encounter on the lawn with 5 geriatric ghosts. This is all totally by the book. Cake, nothing to see here. Nope, nothing at all. Stop looking at me like that. All right, so now that I'm done reading that part, I am ready to take a bunch of questions, pithy or not pithy, whatever you have to ask. Yes.
Why is Henry so smart?
Henry has a thing where he's not so great in the world, like with other kids and stuff like that, but he's really, really smart and good at figuring things out and making stuff and doing puzzles and stuff like that. So he has really a special skill set. But sometimes he doesn't quite fit in, but on the other hand, he may be the one who will be able to solve global warming. Yes?
Why is the rabbit purple?
I don't know. You know, that was the illustrator who decided to do that, and there's not even a rabbit in the story, so I don't really know. It's like there's a prominently featured rabbit on the cover, and there's no rabbit anywhere in here. Yeah.
How old are Henry and Eva, and what is the target age?
So they're like, I think like 10, Henry's 10 and she's 11. And I think the target age for the range for the book is sort of like, I would say 6 to 12. But, you know, if you're reading it, if someone's reading it to their kids, it can go as low as, you know, like 4 and 5 and 6, you know, it just depends. I mean, it's sort of like the same age as people would be reading Harry Potter kind of thing, you know? Yeah. Hello? Are you? No? Okay. I can't see past 10 feet, so yes?
Did you normally write for grown-ups, so did you change your process? Like, did you have to think differently? How did you get into the headspace?
That is an excellent question from the front row. Okay, so at first I thought this is going to be impossible. Why did I decide to do this? But then I realized that basically if I just took out the sort of subject matter that's dark, which is in my other books, as some people here know that have read Bury This and Hit, and if I took out the swear words, and just tried to sort of be as honest as I could. But, you know, I kept in mind, you know, Wyatt and Finn and all his friends, Mateo, like how, you know, the kinds of things they're interested in. Like they're really into mysteries. You know, we just had a mystery party, things like Clue. By the way, Finn figured out the mystery at the party. It was very exciting. You know, figuring out things like Clue or Scooby-Doo, all that stuff. Like they really seem to love figuring out mysteries. So it was sort of like me looking at what they're like and kind of figuring out what to do. Instead of like, I'm going to do this thing because as many of you know, before I was a mom, I had no idea what any kid would want to. Yeah? Mateo?
It never mentioned the ant until you read later on.
That's true. I should have mentioned that before. So, you know, this is sort of loosely based on Hamlet, in case you haven't. There's the uncle, the kids are in the house. They're stuck with their real estate loving Uncle Claude, who they call Claude the Clod. So if you've read Hamlet, Claudius, and his kind of trashy wife, Terri the Terrible. And they have to figure out, once they're visited by the ghosts, what happened to their parents. So it's sort of like very loosely based on that. Yes, Finn?
I'm writing a book, and it reminds me of, because I have a boy in the book who has a sister who knows, like, she's 4 years old and she knows, like everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Reminds me of some little kids I know too around here. Okay, you back there?
Oh,
Well, as I said, there's this really old play called Hamlet by a guy named William Shakespeare. Right. So he had this play called Hamlet, and I thought I'd always wanted to do kind of a version of Hamlet where I split that character into two, a brother and a sister, and then set it up in Big Sur. Secretly, I thought, well, if they ever turn it into a movie like some of my other books, then I can go stay in Big Sur, which was what I wanted to do. But I have sadly been told by my screenwriting partner that they would probably shoot it in Vancouver, so foiled. Well, it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll tell you the best places for me to come up with ideas are when I'm really bored. So I'm not in front of a screen. I'm not doing anything. Usually it's like I'm stuck in traffic. I'm in the shower. It's like I'm always someplace weird. And that's when those good ideas come, which is why it's very important. And I have to work on this for myself to not be in front of a screen so I can actually have those ideas, because they really come in the moments when you're bored. That's usually when the great ideas come.
Just right here.
Okay, Mateo?
How long did it take to finish writing the book?
That's a good question, Mateo. I started this. Now, my first book. See, the process is getting quicker and quicker. My first book, it took me 10 years because I didn't really believe in myself at all. And then the second book took about 2 years. My book Bear This, and now this is my 6th book, and this took I would say about 8 months. So, yeah. And there's one on the way, which I just finished. One second. Yes. Hi, honey. What?
So, what party were they apparently having in the story?
What party?
Were they having in the story?
Well, in my idea, this is actually based on when Wyatt was at his friend Finn's house, and they were watching a movie called Paranormal, which they were only about 3 or 4, but I realized in the middle of it that they shouldn't be watching it, which is a horrible feeling to have as a parent. This also happened when we watched Goonies, and was it Bad News Bears? Jumanji, the original Jumanji. As you know, you try your hardest, and then you'll be in the middle of something, and they'll start swearing or whatever, and you realize you've made a mistake. All right, more questions. Let's have it. You can ask questions. They don't have to be about the book. They can be about the process of writing, in case any of you guys are budding writers like Finn or Mira. Anyone? Good.
How many pages is it?
This book is, let's see here. There's illustrations in the book, by the way. I suppose I should have showed them.
190. I still find it weird that everything's the funniest photo.
It's 273 pages.
Oh my god!
Yes?
So as far as the writing process, I'm not a writer in any way. Do you write from end to end and then you edit, or do you kind of edit and then it changes as you're...
So what usually happens is I'll get an idea and I'll just start writing, and I'll write the whole first draft, really very, very much knowing, and it helps now that this is the 6th time or 7th time now, knowing that the first draft is always really bad. It's just bad. You just have to say, this is bad. I know this is bad, but I'm just going to keep going. Because I find that if you go back in the middle of the process, you'll never finish it, because you'll just get lost in a sea of self-doubt and just not do it, So I'll finish the first draft, and then I'll put it away for 2 weeks and just sort of try to not think about it at all. And then go back to the first draft and then start and then read that. And usually my feeling reading that is by the end, that's better than I thought it was going to be. That's got to go, that's got to go, that's got to go. Maybe we should do more of this and stuff. And then I'll go through and do the fine tuning. Yeah. Yes, Finn?
How do what's the main what's the hardest part about writing that? And how do you revise? I know what's the main revising you do? Is it in between or the ending to make it strong ending?
Well, that's a really good question. And basically what it is okay, so the first thing is you write the whole thing, right? and you say to yourself, you don't get mad at yourself. You just say, okay, this is what it is. I'm just figuring it out. I'm just seeing the lay of the land. I don't really know. And then you put it away for a little while, and then you go back and you see what you wrote, and then you think like, oh, that's pretty good. That works well. Or, oh, that character is a lot better than I thought. Or that's not working. That is really bad. And you go through, and you just have to be really honest with yourself. But don't show it to anyone yet. This is not showing it to anyone time. This is you being honest with yourself about like, okay, this is really funny. Oh, that character just made me laugh. Oh, this, and then you go through and you fine tune it and you figure out what's good and what's bad. And then after you're done with it and you think, okay, this is the best that I can do. I cannot make this better. There's no way. Then you show it to somebody else. But when you're working on something, it's your secret. And you have to keep it precious and away, because a lot of people will say, they'll be like, oh, that's bad, or oh, that'll never work, and and people can be very, they'll make you give up. So it's very important to keep things precious in the beginning, and keep things to your, and protect your baby. Yes.
How do you find an illustrator to work with? Like,
They found the illustrator for me, and she's also the illustrator for the rest of them, for the next one. And I have to say, I really didn't think they found a good one. Like, I've definitely had book covers come back and been like, oh God, or this is just the worst. And this is really basically the first book cover I've got that I was like, wow, that is cool. And she's doing the next one too, which I think the front of it, the Henry and Eva and the famous people goes, the front is like them driving a golf cart, and then like Winston Churchill is here, Groucho Marx is here, so it's kind of cool. I'm excited.
Can you show us a couple of the illustrations inside?
Yes. Do you guys want to see a picture of the family ghosts? Yeah. Well, you can't really see it from where you are, probably. No, well, people will see it when they, Okay, yes, Lisa?
Did you have to do a lot of research on ghosts, and do you believe in ghosts?
That's the thing, so I had a really weird experience where I had to stay in a place called Jefferson, Texas, and I had to go to a book convention thing, and I researched it. I looked. It said Jefferson, Texas. Everything was crowded. Everything was overtaken. But there was this one hotel that was totally free, and it was totally cool. It was a beautiful hotel. The rooms should have been like $300 a night, but somehow they weren't. So I booked it and didn't think twice about it at all. And then the night that I got to the hotel in Jefferson, Texas, there was no one at the hotel. Just a little envelope outside, Andrea Portes. I go, I pick it up, I go, and I stay in the hotel. And I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to scare anyone. But if you go research Jefferson, Texas hotel, you will realize that I actually was staying in one of what is considered the most haunted places in the country by myself, which I didn't know I was by myself. But because there were so many things happening, I didn't realize I was by myself until then. I realized, like, at the end of the weekend that I'd been by myself at this crazy haunted place the whole weekend. So that sort of began my fascination with ghosts and ghost stories and stuff like that. Don't ever go to that place, by the way. Even out of curiosity, don't do it. Any other questions? Yes?
Where you said, yes, I'm going to take Hamlet, I'm going to do it in this way, Big Sur, with these brother and sister. I mean, was there a moment of inspiration?
Not really. I think it was just like, I think anyone here that is a creative person, which there are a lot, you just sort of get your ideas and then they're sort of burbling. And so they just sort of burbled together. But there was the moment that I was like, okay, I'm going to do that is when, probably after being a mom, and seeing what he's into, I thought, okay, this will be cool. I think it'll be fun. Yes. Have
you got a favorite part of the book that was the most fun to write?
started to really like, there's 5 ghosts, and I started to really like writing them. And in fact, I feel like when I was reading it to Wyatt and hearing his responses to those ghosts, I realized that I needed to put them more in the second book, because they're sort of like, they're kind of what makes it different without that whole element of these like kind of hilarious ancestral ghosts that maybe I should have read because they're sort of funny. I think it's just like you just have like a regular old Hardy Boys or Nancy Drew, but then you add in the supernatural and the wit and the humor, and I think that's sort of like has become my favorite thing. And certainly in terms of like going out and meetings and stuff like that, it certainly seems to be like the special sauce or whatever, what people are really excited about. Wait, Finn, I'm going to ask over here first. Hi.
Hi. And when is this next book in the series coming out?
So the next book is due December 1st. So it will come out probably next year or the year after that. Yeah. So we'll probably do another Franklin fundraiser for that one too. Yes, Fed?
When writing a book or even reading a book,
Mm-hmm.
I always find the first chapter boring because there's never any exciting parts in it. Like when writing a book, what do you think about like the first chapter?
Well, usually what you want to have if you're writing a book or if you're writing a TV show or you're writing a movie is in the first pages. They actually call it page 2. It's called a hook, which is, you'll see it when you're watching a movie. A lot of times there will be something that happens in page, like right in the first 5 minutes that you think, oh my God, what is that? What happened? What happened to that person? Is that a ghost? Did they start, and then you start to, that's the hook. And you'll notice if you're watching something or you're reading something that doesn't have a hook, you'll be like, why am I watching this? Like that. So it's good to have that in there when you're writing something. You got to put that in there.
You can't really get past it, but once you do, then it's exciting.
Yeah, then it's exciting. So it's a mystery. A lot of times there will be something in a story that's kind of a mystery that you're watching it to sort of figure out what is that thing. And you, by the way, in answer to your question earlier, you asked about the endings and the beginnings. Whenever you're writing anything, a book, movie, or anything like that, sometimes you have an ending that you originally thought of, and then you realize this ending isn't really working. The book ends or the story ends, and I'm just shrugging. But you have to then go back and figure it out, because landing the ending is the most important part then, because then people think, oh, if you can get the good ending, people like it. But if you just peter out there, then people are just like, they don't like it.
Sometimes you want an unfinished ending, so people are like, what happens? Like, already, and then I saw something, right, and then it stopped.
Right.
So then people want to read the next book.
That's true. You leave them with a question mark. That's good too. Really. A cliffhanger. There we go. Yes.
So at what point did you know there was going to be a number 2?
At the point when my publisher paid me to do a whole series.
But you didn't go into it thinking it was...
No, I mean, I sort of had a general idea, but you never know, so it's, sometimes you think, oh, this is going to be a series, and then by the time you're done with the first one, you think like, I'm over it. But
they read the first one, liked it enough, and said...
No, they actually read the treatment, just sort of the idea in a couple of chapters, and then of course then you have to be like, oh, okay, well now I have to come up with the second one. Hope it's good, or like good luck, or whatever it is. It's actually easier to write something that you're super inspired to write than it is to write something that someone has asked you to write that you don't know what you're going to write yet. All right, any more questions? It seems like we're winding down here. Any last minute questions? Come on, now's the time. It's a great opportunity. Nope? Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.